sniper's fight for survival and has put up a different version of the story. Please head out to his channel. The link is in the description box. So, head over there and help with a like and a subscribe. Now let's start with today's story. My story dates back to 2019, and it's not about my husband and me. We've been happily married for 14 years. This is about an unfortunate event involving my 59-year-old mother and my 63-year-old father. While many think affairs are a young woman's issue, it turns out older women can fall into the same trap. My parents had been happily married for over 38 years until everything changed last Thursday. 3 years ago, my parents retired to Arizona, buying a beautiful home by the river along with a new diesel truck and camper. From October through April, they enjoy their time in Arizona, and for the rest of the year, they explore cooler places like the mountains and the West Coast. They also spend 4 to 6 weeks visiting my family in the high-elevation country of Utah. My husband set up full RV hookups on our property for them, with electricity, water, and septic connections. We have 16 acres, and my husband, kids, and I always look forward to their visits. We also love visiting their home in Arizona, which comes with a boat and jet skis. So much so, we sometimes make the trip even in the summer heat. My brother and his family, who live in Georgia, also visit at least once a year. While they can't visit as often as we do, they still make the effort. Until recent events, I would have proudly said that my parents had the ideal marriage. Both my parents were role models for my brother and me, and we raised our families based on the values they taught us. Now, let me tell you how everything changed. My parents lived in a wonderful community in Arizona where everyone was friendly, except for one woman. There was something about her that I just couldn't put my finger on, but Kathy, a 64-year-old divorcee, really rubbed me the wrong way. She loved to party, was loud, and just came across as obnoxious. I didn't understand why my mom, who's more reserved, hit it off with her so quickly. They became good friends, and that, to me, was a red flag. My mom isn't a party person, and she only drinks socially a couple of times a year. I remember having a conversation with her about Kathy. "Mom, I don't know. There's just something about her that doesn't sit right with me," I said one day, sitting on the porch of their Arizona home. She looked at me, slightly dismissive. "Jenny, you worry too much. Kathy's harmless. She's just a little loud, but she's got a heart of gold." "I don't know, Mom. She's not like the other friends you have," I insisted. "She's different, and I don't think she's a good influence." But my mom wouldn't listen. She just shrugged it off, telling me I was overreacting. "You'll see. Once you get to know her, you'll like her too. Trust me." The thing is, Kathy started getting close to several of my mom's other friends too, despite her obnoxious behavior. I watched as they seemed to warm up to her, and I just couldn't understand it. Every time I raised my concerns, my mom assured me that Kathy was harmless. It was like no one else saw what I saw. Then, a few months ago, Kathy bought a boat. I wasn't surprised that she got my dad involved in picking it out, but I couldn't help but feel uneasy. It was a big purchase, and my dad was always so careful with money. "Dad, are you sure about this?" I asked one evening as they talked about the boat plans. "Jenny, it's fine," he reassured me. "Kathy's been wanting a boat for a while, and I'm just helping her pick the right one. It's nothing more than that." I still wasn't convinced, but I didn't push the issue. A part of me wanted to trust my dad's judgment, but something felt off. Then, both my parents taught her how to operate it. Last Tuesday, my mom, Kathy, and another friend, Nancy, went out for happy hour around 6 p.m. This was the second red flag. They headed to a local river bar on Kathy's boat, planning to enjoy some drinks by the water and chat for a few hours. That evening, my dad called me, sounding a bit concerned. "Your mom just called. She said they'd be staying out for another hour. Apparently, they bumped into a friend of Kathy's and are going to stop by this person's riverside home for a bit." I was immediately suspicious. "Who's this friend, Dad? I don't think I've heard you mention anyone from that area." "I'm not sure. She didn't really say. But don't worry. It's probably nothing," he said, trying to reassure me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Dad, this just doesn't feel right. Mom's not one to stay out late like this." "She's fine, Jenny. Let her enjoy herself," he responded. His tone was calm, but I couldn't help feeling uneasy. Mom didn't get home until just after 9 p.m., and everything seemed fine on the surface. She didn't mention much about the night, except that they had a good time. Wednesday came and went without anything unusual happening. But then, on Thursday, my mom, Kathy, and Nancy planned to head back to the bar for more happy hour drinks on the patio. This was the fourth red flag. Mom doesn't usually drink, and yet, in just a few days, she had been out twice, socializing and enjoying happy hour. I was starting to notice a shift in her behavior, and it felt out of character. I called her that afternoon, trying to stay casual. "Hey, Mom, going out again tonight?" She laughed. "Yeah, just a quick stop for some drinks with the girls. Don't worry, I'll be home soon." I tried not to sound too worried, but I couldn't help it. "Mom, you've been out a lot this week. Are you sure everything's okay? You don't normally drink like this." She paused for a moment, then said, "Everything's fine, Jenny. Just enjoying some time with friends. Don't overthink it, okay?" Her tone seemed a little defensive, and I could feel my concern growing. This sudden change in behavior was a major warning sign. That evening, my dad and Nancy's husband were working on their cars, so the ladies' outing wasn't an issue. They left by boat around 6:30 p.m., planning to return by 9 p.m. Dad and Nancy's husband finished their work around 8 p.m., and when my dad got home and showered, he noticed a missed call from Mom. He called her back, and I could tell something felt off when I overheard part of the conversation. "Hey, honey, what's up?" he asked when she picked up. "Hi, dear. Kathy and Nancy want to stay out longer, but I'm ready to come home. Could you pick me up?" Mom's voice sounded normal, but there was something about it that felt a little distant. "Of course, I'll be right there," Dad replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He didn't seem concerned, though I could tell he was curious about what was going on. Once Dad arrived at the bar and picked her up, he mentioned that the ride back was quiet. "She seemed fine, Jenny," he told me later that night. "But I did most of the talking. She mostly just listened." I could hear the slight worry in his voice. "What did you talk about?" I asked, hoping for some more details. "Oh, just the usual stuff, you know. How work's going, what we should do this weekend." "Nothing out of the ordinary," he said, but I could tell he was holding back something. But it felt like she was zoning out a bit, like her mind was elsewhere. That stuck with me. Mom had always been so present when we talked, and now, she seemed distant. Dad's comment about doing most of the talking, with Mom mostly listening, felt like a small but significant shift. When they arrived home, my dad came inside first and then saw Mom fall to her knees right in front of him. She hugged his legs, her head resting against his stomach. At first, he thought she was just being playful. Maybe she was tired and wanted some attention. But then he noticed the trembling, the way she was shaking. That's when it hit him. She was crying. Dad, still confused, gently lifted her up. "Hey, what's going on, sweetheart?" he asked, trying to hold her steady. "Why are you crying?" Through her tears, my mom finally confessed. I cheated on you, Jack," she sobbed, barely able to get the words out. "I'm so sorry." Dad was frozen, unable to process what she had just said. What did you say?" he asked, his voice strained with disbelief. I cheated on you," she repeated, voice cracking. "I never meant to hurt you. I'm so sorry." My dad just stood there, his face blank, the shock of her words hitting him hard. No, this isn't real," he murmured, almost as if he was hoping she would say something different. But there was nothing more to say. After 38 years of marriage, 40 years together, how could you do this? I could only imagine how devastated he must have been. Their relationship had always seemed flawless, something that everyone envied. To hear my mom admit to cheating, it shattered everything I had thought I knew about them. How could she do that to him? To all of us? After a long silence, Dad managed to compose himself. He put a hand on her back and spoke softly, trying to keep his own emotions in check. "Go take a shower, okay? We'll talk in the morning." Mom looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Jack, don't leave me. I'm so sorry. We need to talk now." But Dad, though hurt and still in shock, stayed calm. "No, we'll talk tomorrow. We need time to process this, and I need some space to think. We'll talk then." Despite her pleading, he calmly reiterated that they'd discuss things later, and with that, he turned and went to bed, leaving my mom standing there, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom couldn't sleep that night. She kept pacing by their bedroom door, knocking softly, asking if Dad was ready to talk. Every time, he told her to rest, that they'd talk in the morning. But I could hear the desperation in her voice, the way she was holding on, hoping for some kind of reassurance. But Dad, as hard as it was, kept telling her no, that they needed to sleep on it. I could tell he was trying to stay composed, though I imagine he was barely holding it together. By 5:30 a.m., she finally seemed to fall asleep. I think exhaustion caught up with her, but when she woke up at 8 a.m., everything had changed. Dad was gone, and the camper was missing from the driveway. I remember the phone call I got from her, her voice frantic, asking, "Jenny, where's your dad? Have you seen him?" "Mom, what's going on?" "What do you mean?" I was still half asleep. "Jack's gone. His camper's gone. He's not here." There was a tremble in her voice now, panic creeping in. I tried to stay calm. I don't know, Mom. Maybe he's just out for a drive? Did you try calling him? She didn't answer right away, and I could tell she was looking around, probably expecting to find him in the house. Then, after a long silence, she said, I called him, Jenny. He's not answering. That's when I realized something was wrong. Something bigger than just a fight. What she didn't know, what none of us knew, was that my dad had moved all of his personal belongings into the camper overnight. He'd quietly handled everything, not wanting to disturb her. The sliding door from their bedroom led to the patio, and he had used it to sneak out, carrying his clothes and everything he needed, without making a sound. It was like he was silently preparing for this moment. When Mom started calling him, he didn't pick up. After a few attempts, he sent a text. As of 6 a.m. on April 9th, we are officially separated. I could hear my mom's breath catch when she read it. She sounded like she was choking. No, this can't be happening. No. And that's when she completely lost it. After my mom's call to Dad, she tried again, hoping for a change in his tone, but this time, he picked up. I could tell from the way his voice sounded that he had already made up his mind. Calmly, almost matter-of-factly, he repeated the text he'd sent earlier. I'm divorcing you. Until the divorce is finalized, I'll be living in the camper. Mom's voice cracked as she begged him to give her a chance to explain, but he didn't waver. I'm not interested in hearing anything you have to say right now. You'll hear from my attorney once I've hired one. I could feel the coldness in his words, the finality of it. Mom kept asking why it had to be this way, but Dad didn't respond. The line went dead after a brief goodbye. And just like that, it was over. I couldn't believe it was happening. But that wasn't the end of it. After hanging up, Dad reached out to Nancy's husband. I still don't know exactly how it all unfolded, but somehow, he found out about Nancy's role in the affair. When Nancy's husband confronted her, things escalated quickly. I couldn't get all the details, but the next thing I knew, Nancy had been locked out of their house. Now, Nancy's staying with Kathy, of all people, until things settled down. I was shocked when I heard. Nancy, who had always been a part of our family, was now wrapped up in this mess. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's hard to even talk to her right now. I want to help, but how do you support someone who has just completely betrayed the family? I'm not sure how she's going to move forward, or how anyone's going to pick up the pieces from all of this. After talking to Mom, Dad called my brother and me to break the news. At first, we thought it was some kind of joke. It didn't seem real, not after everything. 38 years of marriage, a life built together. I couldn't hold back the tears. I wanted to scream, to ask why, but I knew the answers wouldn't change anything. It was done. Since then, Mom's been a wreck. She's barely slept, barely eaten. It's like she's been in a daze. She's been driving from campsite to campsite, searching for Dad. I don't even know how many miles she's logged. Over 1,800 miles, I think she said. She'll leave early in the morning and come home late at night, sometimes not even acknowledging the passing of time. Every day, it's the same thing. Searching, hoping she'll find him and he'll come back. My brother and I know where Dad is, but we've promised not to tell her. We both support him, and we want to respect his wishes. He's the one who's been wronged, and I can't blame him for wanting space. But that doesn't make it any easier to watch Mom fall apart. It's hard to even talk to her anymore. Every conversation feels like she's clinging to any shred of hope that he'll come back. I can't go on without him, she keeps saying. She says it like she's lost, like the person she's been for all these years is gone. We try to reassure her, but nothing seems to help. I'm scared for her. I'm scared she might hurt herself or have an accident because of the emotional state she's in. She's been driving nonstop, barely eating, and it's like she's not even aware of the danger she's putting herself in. Every time she gets in the car, it feels like I'm holding my breath, waiting for something bad to happen. I don't know how much longer she can keep this up. We've been weighing our options. We could tell Mom where Dad is, promise her that she won't go to him, and that might give her some peace of mind. But there's a part of me that knows it could really damage our relationship with Dad if he finds out we broke our promise. We need to support him fully. He's the one who was blindsided by everything. He deserves to have the space he needs, and Mom has to face the consequences of her actions. It's hard, but we have to do what's right for both of them, even if it hurts. One day later, Mom was in the St. George area, still searching for Dad. St. George, for those who don't know, is in southwest Utah. It's not a huge town, but it's far enough from home that we couldn't reach her quickly. I kept thinking about how much she was putting herself through, driving endlessly, and I knew something had to give. I decided to try to talk some sense into her, So I called and asked if she'd come stay with us for a few nights. It felt like a shot in the dark, but at this point, I didn't know what else to do. When she picked up, her voice sounded so tired, so defeated. "I can't stop, Jenny. I have to find him. I know you're hurting, Mom. But please, just come stay with us for a few nights," I said gently. "You need rest. We're all really worried about you." She hesitated, and I could hear the conflicting emotions in her voice. "I can't just stop searching. I don't know where else to go." "Mom, please," I said. "You can rest here. We'll figure things out together. You don't have to keep driving around like this. You're wearing yourself out." After a long pause, she finally sighed. "Okay, Jenny, I'll come," she agreed, and I felt a small wave of relief wash over me. At least she wasn't going to keep pushing herself any further. But I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the first step. Over the past 10 days, a lot of significant changes have happened. When Mom arrived at my house, she looked completely exhausted, her face pale, and she kept saying she wasn't feeling well. We had a quick chat when she got in. Everyone greeted her, and we let her rest in one of the bedrooms. It seemed like she just needed some time to recover, so I didn't think much of it at first. But about an hour later, my youngest daughter came running into the living room, screaming for me to come to the bedroom. I immediately rushed over, and when I walked in, I saw Mom doubled over in pain, clutching her lower abdomen and pelvic area. Her face was twisted in agony, and she couldn't even move. My heart skipped a beat. "Mom, what's wrong?" I asked, my voice shaking. I don't know, Jenny. It hurts so much," she gasped, tears welling up in her eyes. I quickly called my husband, and without hesitation, he lifted her gently, and we rushed her to the car. The entire time, she was sweating, her breathing shallow, and I could feel the heat radiating from her body. It was clear she had a fever, and I was beyond worried. At the emergency room, we didn't have to wait long. They immediately took Mom in, and a nurse asked us a series of questions about her symptoms. "What happened, exactly?" the nurse asked, taking her vitals. "She's been in pain for about an hour now," I told her. "She has a high fever, and it seems to be localized in her abdomen and pelvic area." After some time, a doctor came in and examined her. He suspected it might be a urinary tract infection, but he said he needed to run a few tests to be sure. They also started treating her for severe dehydration, giving her fluids through and for to help stabilize her. As the results came back, the doctor looked up at us with a serious expression. "It seems your mother has contracted a sexually transmitted disease," he said, his voice calm but direct. I blinked, stunned. "What? How?" The doctor gave a small nod. "It's one that can be treated with antibiotics, but we'll need to monitor her closely for the next 24 hours. I recommend keeping her here overnight until her fever subsides and her condition improves." Mom's face was pale, and she was clearly exhausted, but now we had a new concern to deal with. The fact that she had contracted an STD was shocking, but I also couldn't help but think back to the affair and everything that had happened with Kathy. I turned to my husband, who had been by my side, and just quietly mouthed, "What now?" He gave me a gentle, supportive look. We were in this together. After 48 hours in the hospital, there was still no noticeable improvement in Mom's condition. The doctor explained that it might be a drug-resistant strain of the STD that had been spreading in recent years, so they switched her to a stronger combination of antibiotics. I watched as she seemed to get weaker each day, her face pinched with pain and exhaustion. It felt like an eternity until the 5th day when her fever finally broke, and I could see a slight change in her condition. She was still fragile, but her temperature had gone down, and she was beginning to stabilize. She was discharged from the hospital later. During her time in the hospital, Mom repeatedly asked about Dad. She wanted to know if he had called to check on her, and every time she asked, I could see the hurt in her eyes. It was heartbreaking. I knew she was holding on to the hope that he would come around, that maybe after 40 years together, he would reach out. I answered her truthfully every time. "No, Mom, he hasn't called. Not even once," I said gently. "But I've been keeping him updated daily on your condition." She would sigh heavily, her eyes drifting to the ceiling as if searching for some answer that wasn't coming. It was hard to watch. I spent as much time as I could with her. My family and I visited multiple times a day, ensuring she wasn't alone for too long, but it only seemed to make her more depressed. Now that she's at home with us, physically recovering, the emotional strain was still there. She had gotten back into the routine of texting and calling Dad constantly. She would look at her phone, frown, and send another message. She'd call, leave voicemails, then call again, all the while convincing herself that if she just reached out enough, something would change. One night, after dinner, She dropped her phone onto the kitchen table with a frustrated sigh. Her shoulders slumped, and I could see the tears brimming in her eyes. You'd think after 40 years together, he'd at least check in on me, she muttered, her voice trembling. I couldn't stop myself. Are you kidding me, Mom? I snapped, my voice trembling with rage. How could you do this? You've been married to Dad for 40 years, and you threw all of that away for some guy who's barely even old enough to be your son? How could you? Mom's face crumpled, and she tried to reach for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. No, don't touch me. You don't get to make excuses for this. You didn't just make a mistake, Mom. You destroyed our family. Everything we had, everything that was good. I choked on the words, my throat tightening with emotion. I could see her face collapse into guilt, but I wasn't done. I couldn't stop the storm inside me. You've been out there acting like a teenager, running around with some construction worker. What the hell were you thinking? How could you betray Dad like that? He trusted you. He gave you everything, and you repaid him by throwing it all away for some guy you barely even know. Do you even realize what you've done to him? To us? Mom started sobbing, but I didn't care. I couldn't care. You don't get to be sad about this. You don't get to cry now, not after what you've done. You ruined everything, Mom. You ruined us. I felt the tears start to burn in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not when she was the one who deserved to cry. This guy was targeting a 59-year-old married woman. What a jerk. He and his 2 friends rented a trailer by the river for 6 months instead of staying in a hotel. Here's where it gets worse. According to Mom, she talked to him on Tuesday while Kathy and Nancy were with the other 2 guys, and by Thursday, she was so swept up by his advances that she couldn't resist and ended up having sex with him. I was disgusted hearing this. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought my own mom would do something like that. I kept pressing her on it, but Mom seemed increasingly uncomfortable, clearly not wanting to talk about it. Still, I pushed her for answers. All she could say was that she didn't know how it happened, but she immediately regretted it once things started happening with the guy. Thinking about it now makes me feel sick. Mom clung to this hope that Dad would come back. She truly believed he'd change his mind, but I knew deep down that wasn't going to happen. Dad had made up his mind, and he was never the type to go back on a decision once he'd made it. I know he'll come back, Jenny, she said, her eyes filled with tears as she spoke. I can feel it. He'll realize that I made a mistake, and he'll forgive me. I tried to speak calmly, but I was frustrated with her denial. Mom, you don't understand. He's not coming back. He's done. He's been clear about that. Her face fell, and I could see her battling with herself, still refusing to fully accept it. But he'll come around. He has to. After everything, Jenny, we were together for 40 years. We built a life together. I let out a heavy sigh, my heart sinking for her, but my patience wearing thin. Mom, you ruined that life. You tore it apart with your choices. And I'm sorry, but you have to face the consequences of what you did. She winced at my words, but I didn't soften them. I couldn't help but think of what Dad was doing and how this was all going to play out. I hated that it was happening, but at the same time, I knew it was necessary for him. He'd made up his mind, and the truth had to come out. What she didn't know was that Dad was planning to serve her with divorce papers at my house. He wanted her to have family around her when it happened, to support her through what was going to be a heartbreaking moment. And as much as I wanted to be there for Mom, I wasn't sure how I could fully support her after everything that had happened. I was stuck in the middle, torn between loyalty to my father and love for my mother. I can't stop feeling guilty about what's coming. The divorce papers are inevitable, and I'm caught in this horrible position where I want to support Mom, but I also owe it to Dad to help him through this. I never imagined that I'd be in the middle of all this, torn between 2 people I love so much. I want to be there for Mom when it all hits her, to offer comfort when the pain finally sinks in, but I also need to respect Dad's wishes and support him, especially after everything that's happened. Dad made it clear that he was done. The only time he saw Mom after he left the camper was during the divorce hearings, and in those brief moments, I could see how hurt he was, how deeply betrayed by everything she had done. I didn't know what to say to either of them, so I just stayed quiet, trying to give them space. I had expected him to at least try to work things out, maybe take a little longer to process everything, but he didn't. The hurt in his eyes told me that he'd made up his mind long before the hearings. I understood why he was upset, why he felt so completely done with the marriage, but it still surprised me how quickly he cut her out. It wasn't like Dad. He'd always been the kind of guy to take his time, weigh his options, but this was different. What made it easier for me to stand by Dad, though, was that he made sure the financial settlement was handled fairly. Mom was treated generously, even after everything. He didn't try to take everything from her, didn't use their split to punish her. He just wanted to be done with it, to move on. And I guess, in some strange way, I understood that. He had been so betrayed, so disrespected, that all he wanted now was to close the door on the past and find peace. It pains me to admit this, but I can't deny it. I get it. I understand his feelings of betrayal and disrespect. The way she acted, the way she'd torn their family apart for something so selfish. It's not something that can just be forgiven and forgotten. Mom used to have everything. Her beautiful house by the river in Arizona, the boats, the jet skis, the freedom to travel wherever she pleased with Dad. They used to have these grand adventures across the country, visiting new places every summer, their laughter filling the air as they explored coastlines and mountains. That life, the one she built with Dad, is all gone now. Now, she's living in a small town near us, in a modest apartment. I try not to think about the life she gave up for what? A cheap thrill? A fleeting moment of excitement that cost her everything? I can't help but wonder if she regrets it, if she ever sits in that tiny apartment, staring at the walls, wishing she could go back and undo everything. It's painful to even think about, and I know she feels it too, even if she doesn't always show it. While Dad moved on swiftly, taking care of things with finality and making sure everything was sorted out, Mom's been stuck in this downward spiral. After the divorce, her health started to rapidly decline. First, it was bronchitis, then dehydration and malnutrition. She wasn't eating properly, barely sleeping. I got the call one evening that she was in the hospital. My heart sank when I heard, but when I got there, the reality of her condition hit me. She was hooked up to IVs, her face pale, eyes sunken, looking like someone who hadn't been taking care of herself for months. The doctors said she was suffering from severe depression and anxiety, which was affecting her ability to function. We stayed with her those few days she was in the hospital, visiting her, trying to keep her spirits up. The medication they gave her helped. It wasn't a miracle, but it was something. Her mind became calmer, her breathing steadier. She wasn't as frantic anymore. For a while, there was some peace, some calm for her mind. I wish I could say that it fixed everything, but we all knew it wasn't that simple. When I got the news about Mom's diagnosis, I felt like the ground beneath me was shifting again. Lupus. The doctor said it was likely triggered by all the stress from the divorce and losing Dad. The thought of it just hit me hard. It's like everything she's been through, everything she's done to herself, had finally caught up with her. The doctor explained that stress can mess with the immune system, making conditions like lupus worse. And it was clear to everyone that her immune system had been weakened from everything she's gone through. First, there was the STD and the bronchitis that took so much out of her. Now, lupus was adding to the list of challenges she had to face. The doctor told her she needed to focus on managing her stress, that she couldn't keep living the way she had been. If she wanted to improve, she had to make serious changes. She had to start doing things to calm down, to ease her mind, and to stop putting so much pressure on herself. It sounded simple, but I knew it wasn't. Over the past 6 months, I've seen small improvements in her. She's not the same person she was before, but she's getting better in little ways. Still, there are days when I see her, and I just feel this weight in my chest. Mom is not the woman she used to be. She's frail now, so fragile. Her confidence is gone, and with it, all the strength she used to have. It's like she's just a shell of the vibrant woman I grew up with. She's lost her vitality, and it's hard to watch. A few months ago, I was able to get Mom a job at a craft superstore. A friend of mine is the manager there, and I thought it could be a good fit for her. She's been doing well, and has even gotten praise for being such a wonderful employee. I'm relieved to see her get some recognition, but I know it's not easy for her. This job has given her some purpose, something to focus on, and I'm glad for that. She's not the same as she once was. She's lost the comfort she had. Her home by the river, her life with Dad, all the things she used to take for granted. Now, she's living in a small apartment near me. It's not much compared to what she had before, but at least it's a place to call her own. She's also relying on prescription medication now, something I never imagined would be part of her life. And stress, it's still weighing on her. Every time we talk, she seems to be fighting to keep her emotions in check, like she's barely holding it together. At 59, she is trying to live again, but this time she is alone. But enough about Mom. As for Dad, he's certainly not wasting any time. He seems to be enjoying his newfound freedom as a nomad, traveling wherever he pleases in his camper. He loves the outdoors and exploring new places. Over the past 6 months, he started seeing a woman, and things appear to be getting serious between them. Her name's Carol, and she's really nice. I've met her a few times, and she's really nice and treats Dad well. It might sound strange, but she's quite a bit younger than him. They share an interest in travel, as she's a travel vlogger who's been traveling the country for the past 4 months. Though she hasn't featured Dad on her channel, she's mentioned him in several of her videos. They seem to have a great connection, and Dad has told me directly that he's happier than he's ever been. He'll send me pictures from different spots, mountains, deserts, lakes, and he sounds so content when he talks about it. At first, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, especially since she's a lot younger than him. But seeing them together, I can't deny that they have a strong connection. They seem really happy, and Dad's told me directly that he's happier than he's ever been. He's reassured my brother and me that he has no plans to marry again, though. He says he's been through enough with Mom, and he's enjoying this part of his life where he doesn't have to worry about anything like that. What's interesting is that Carol feels the same way. She's had a failed marriage in the past, and says she doesn't want to go through that again. I get it. She loves nature, spending time outdoors just like Dad, and I think they really are a perfect match.